Hi, in this video we're going to use the Amplify Fusion iMap to do a complex mapping of an array of JSON objects that also has a subarray of JSON objects. So the input JSON object will be this fruit_in array, and it has one property called name, and then it has an array of types which has name, color, country of origin, and whether it's in stock or not. So you see for apples, I've got Granny Smith and Fuji in stock, and I've got Gala apples are not in stock. Then for bananas, we've got Cavendish and Burrow are in stock, but the red banana is not in stock, and so on. So this is my input JSON array, and then the output, what we'd like to construct is a fruit out, which again is an array of JSON objects, which has the name. But now instead of a type array, it's going to have an in-stock array and an out-of-stock array. So for apples, I would have an in-stock array of Granny Smith and Fuji with the color, and for out-of-stock, I would have Gala. And for bananas, I'd have Cavendish and Burrow are in stock, and then red bananas are out of stock. And this is quite common when we have data coming from one data source, and then maybe we're either aggregating or we need to convert it to write our data to another destination. So we can use the Amplify Fusion iMap to do this complex mapping without having to implement any for loops. So what we need to do is I have a new project here called Nested Loop iMap. And in order to use an iMap, we need data objects for our input and output data. So I've got files here. I've got my input file, and this is just minified version of the same data we just saw. And I've also got my output. Hopefully you can see that, but if not, that's okay too. So let's create two data objects. So this will be fruit_in. And what we'll do is we'll select a JSON sample and we'll choose that file. And there we have it. So this is my fruit_in, and its array of the name and then the types, including an in-stock property. And let's do the same for the output. We'll call this fruit_out. And again, we're going to use a JSON sample, and we have a file already created. Okay, and here's what fruit_out looks like, and it's got two arrays, an in-stock and out-of-stock list. All right, the next thing we can do is we can create our iMap. So let me come over here, and we'll call this our fruit mapper. And one of the advantages of mapping data in an iMap is it's reusable. So we can also use a map function to do some mapping, but it's not reusable. So even for simple mapping, it's kind of nice to use an iMap because, again, it's a reusable map. So here is the user interface for the iMap, and we need to specify the input, and it's fruit_in. I can give that a name, but I only have one input. I'll leave it at the default document, and we'll select fruit_out. And again, we'll leave that as document. And here's our fruit_in, and here's our fruit_out. So if you recall, what I want is I want to grab the name. That's a straight mapping. So how do we do that? I've got an array of fruit_in and an array of fruit_out. So the first thing that I do is I'm going to grab this path name because I need a reference to this array of input fruit. And what I'm going to do is on fruit_out, I'm going to right click and select loop. I'm going to call this is my main fruit loop. And I am going to provide the source path as document fruit_in and save that. And now let's go inside that loop. And if you see here, this little yellow box, I'm inside of the loop. And also I can see that fruit_in, I'm really looking at one instance of it, and I'm also looking at one instance of fruit_out. That's common in Amplify Fusion. When you're in a loop, your array, you're looking at the nth item. So I will just drag name to name. That's what I want to do in this first loop. And I can save that. All right, now I'm back out. I'm back at the top. Now let's go back into the loop and let's deal with in stock and out of stock. So let's go in. So in my outer loop, what I want to do is I want to grab elements from here, from type. So I'll copy that path. And let's first look at in stock. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a loop. And this is going to be in stock loop. And the source path is going to be types. And let's go inside. So now I'm actually inside of that loop. And again, we can see that because types is no longer an array and neither is in stock because I'm in an inner loop now. So what I want is I want to grab the name and I want to grab the color. Those are the only two things. And then I want to save that. Now I'm back out. I'm inside of the outer loop, which is called fruit loop, but I'm no longer inside of my in-stock loop. Now, I only want to grab those items under a certain condition, and that condition is when the in-stock is equal to true. And let's save that. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to loop over types, and I want to assign those to out of stock under certain conditions. So let's create a loop and call that out of stock loop. And let's go inside of that. And again, types and out of stock is a single. I'll grab the name, I'll grab the color, and let's save that. Now again, I'm back out. And again, just to see this, here you can see I'm in the out of stock loop, right? And if I click here, I am in the in stock loop. That's the way that's easy to kind of see that. So for the out of stock, I only want to grab the elements where in stock is false. And at this point, I click save, and I am now done. So let's save this. And we should be able to test this. So if I grab, let's see if that'll work. I don't know if I need a parsed version of that, but let's come up here. Let's click test. Aha, so it looks pretty good here. So what I've got here for fruit out, I've got apple, and then in stock I've got Granny Smith green, and I've got Fuji red, and out of stock it has Gala red and yellow. So that actually looks pretty good. But let's test it out inside my inside of Flow or an integration. So we've got our data objects, we've got our iMap. Now let's come here and let's build a test integration. Let's put a scheduler on there. We're not going to enable this or activate this, so let's just put 60. And now let's do a couple things here. Let's do a map. And let's declare our input. Let's put a string fruit in. And then let's grab this. Okay. And let's paste it. Okay. Save that. Now let's parse it. So we can pass it into our iMap. So let's parse that with the fruit in data object. And the output is going to be, the output of the parser is going to be this structured document with our nested arrays of data. And now I can call my iMap or my data mapper. And there you have it. And let's expand this. And I'll use my fruit mapper. And it has a fruit in. So I can go fruit in to fruit in. And We should be able to just test this. Okay, and then if I look here and I look at the document, so fruit out, well, there's five items, that's correct. And for Apple, I've got in stock 2 items, Granny Smith and Fuji, and for out of stock, I've got Gala red yellow. And let's go to the last one. For mangoes in stock, I've got 2, Tommy Atkins red green, and I've got Atalfo yellow. And for out of stock, we've got 1, Alfonso. And let's compare that to my input. So here's the fruit in. Let's look at mangoes, and we can see that that's not in stock, the Alfonso golden yellow, and these 2 must be in stock. True for the Tommy Atkins, and true for the Atalfo. So in this example, we saw how without loops, we could use the iMap to do some complex mapping of nested JSON arrays of data from one format to another in Amplify Fusion. Thank you.